Crashlands is Sam's dream game in a nutshell. Sam pitched the vision of the game to me as it's this open world adventure where there's all these characters and stories and everything in the world is useful. You can break anything apart and turn it into all kinds of stuff, and you can build things and explore, and it's infinite. And I was like, great. We had no ability to do any of those things. Like, we had no experience with that, no knowledge. He went from feeling terrible from his disease to then feeling terrible from his treatment. It wasn't really my job to be the game's programmer. All that mattered was making sure that I was working hard enough that I could do interesting things that would keep Sam excited about the project that we were working on. If I was dragging ass on the game programming, then Sam would have nothing to make art for. Right? And so I had to try to keep ahead of him all the time so that he always had something interesting to lay art on top of.
Art was still very kind of mentally draining for me to do. And it wasn't until I had those 3 months of just this sort of like rigorous focus in the face of cancer treatment that I kind of broke through that like initial sort of apprenticeship phase almost in art. Just, it doesn't feel like you're dragging a chisel across stone finally.
I think it helped him, have that goal and that focus. He always tried to work every day in the hospital, except for when he was really, really sick and couldn't even, open his eyes. But he always, I'm going to try to make, this creature, and I'm going to do this. And, what was so important to him was this universe that helped take him away, and it was a place that they could all be together.
He would have these sort of indeterminate amount of time hospital stays where he had to just sit around. So you can't plan your life around that or anything. And so it was very frustrating for him. I asked him if I should come in, just like we could play board games or just kind of chill. And he did not want me to come in. He wanted me to stay home and work on Crashlands. So I just kind of pulled an all-nighter that night. And the next morning I just drove to the hospital. I had put in some sort of makeshift torches, that were just really terrible artwork, but just to show kind of how the lighting system worked. And then for the next 2 days in the hospital, he was just pumped. He's like, here, I made these 20 different lamps, and he's just coming up with all kinds of cool stuff that we can make glow. That I think was kind of telling of the entire experience, where I did feel like I could do something to keep him going and keep him excited. And working on this game was very therapeutic, I think, for both of us, for sure.
At the time, I looked at what they were doing, where they were trying to make a living making video games. As one guy who had never programmed a day in his life, learning how to program while making video games, and another guy who had never done art, teaching himself how to make art for video games. And then together they were like, we're going to form a company and make games. My thought at the time was, I don't think anybody can pull that off. Even if they were already a programmer and an artist, I was like, I don't think it's possible in that industry just to appear out of nowhere and be successful. But at the same time, if anybody can do it, these would be the guys who could pull that off.
And we emerged from the fog of all that chemo and everything. We looked at what we had, and we realized that it still wasn't really a game. And that we were going to have a hard time marketing it as a game. And that was about the time that Adam came on board as well.
Sam shows this prototype to Seth. And again, it was not a good prototype. But that's the beauty of a prototype, is you're trying to get an idea across, right? And Seth looked at it for what it was and saw what Sam was trying to capture, which was really just a feeling of just exploration, which later turned into something more important, I think, which is the feeling of joy. Because that was what was kind of hard to come by at that time, and we wanted something that could provide it. So I didn't know about the prototype. This was all told to me after the fact until it turned into the first actual prototype of the actual game, which at that time was called Four Corners. And it was called Four Corners because Seth couldn't figure out how to make a map big enough to like feel like it was a big space. And so he was getting annoyed because he would walk a short distance and be at the edge.
I remember the first time that Seth got the world to generate. It took 7 minutes to make the world. So you had to sit there watching the loading bar go as the world was being assembled. And then once it was assembled, it only took like 4 minutes to walk across. Then shortly thereafter, like 6 months after, Seth dove into Perlin Noise, and he figured out how to make the world infinite and how to generate it in literally 0 time.
So everything here is all generated using math. And the other cool thing is with this, since we don't save anything, what you see on screen is the only thing that exists. So we have a little bit of an edge here where everything exists right outside, and then beyond that there's just an empty void. It would take 63 years for you to explore the whole map. So if you were to just do nothing but play Crashlands forever, you would be able to explore the whole map in 63 years. So it's a lot better than our original 2 minute map exploration. So yeah, that's how we're doing it. We're using Perlin Noise to put all this stuff in the world.
If you play Quadrupus Rampage, which is one of our previous games, and you manage to unlock a perk inside of that game, then it'll actually spill into Crashlands and unlock an alternate quest line where you'll meet the hero from that game in this game. And then we wanted to make it, more awesome than that. And of course, what do players love more than meeting their fictional heroes is being able to blow shit up. So Attack in Quadrupus Rampage does this power smash move where he takes his tennis racket or whatever his weapon is and slams it into the ground and causes a huge explosion. And so at the end of that quest line, you're going to actually get his tennis racket, which will act as a gadget that you can use to initiate this power move. Now, a lot of people kind of sweat over, I don't know, I guess they sweat over a lot of details, or as far as art is concerned, or kind of perfectionist about stuff. But for me, basically, my goal is to draw things once and then to never have to draw them again. Much to the chagrin of my brothers, I think. So I do my best to get it good enough. And so right now, I think this handle is a little dull looking. So I'll come in here and put some of these little flags in here, so it's got a little more sort of texture to it. And then actually come in and add nodes at various points here, so we can get some more bending of the handle, so it looks like it's got some paunch to it, like this.
Look at that paunch.
Little handle paunch, like it's all full. I mean, a lot of the stuff in our games is it's got this sort of squishy, this squishy feel, which does actually come with a bit of over detail as far as these smaller lines go.
So Sam made all of this stuff, I think we have now something like 16 of these texture pages. So we have well over, I believe, 2,000 sprites in this game. It's pretty insane. Sam can bang out some of these in like, what, how fast, Sam? 20 minutes?
Most things take 25 minutes.
25, yeah. He times himself so he can get faster. It's like a sport for him.
I was playing it and I was like, holy shit, this is a real game. And at that point, I was like, then I was all in, right? I was like, we need to make this thing go because people need to be able to play this. This is very cool. When I joined the studio, none of the main characters actually existed. We didn't have any non-player character races that would tell stories. There was no story. There was no reason for the player to play the game besides the game mechanics themselves. We wanted to make it so that the player felt like they were doing this big adventure. And so we changed the entire sort of initial setup of the game to be this new character model where the character model itself should be very cool. I can't remember how we even came up with the name for Flux, but we gave her a name. We made the little suit companion that would be like a lot of other games have, like a lot of first-person shooters where there's like a voice that talks to you right through your suit, like Halo, for example. With our previous games was, if you take like Tile Fight 2, the main character has a pet, this little pug named Bella. They loved having that pet there because it's a companion that basically joins you on your epic journey to defeat these bad guys. And then so Quadros Rampage, Sam and Seth did it again, only this time they gave you a little starfish pet. But again, we just found that people just loved having that companion. And it was one of the things that we realized was that, you know, these are single player games that we're making, and without it, they get lonely if you don't feel like there's somebody there with you. And by making an interesting, entertaining companion that actually is joining you on the journey, then it helps immerse you in the game and feel like it's a joyous experience.
Hey everyone, this is Adam Coster from the indie game studio Butterscotch Shenanigans. We're working on a new game called Crashlands, which you can see all over the screen right now. It's a really big crafting RPG game with boss fights and crafting. Did I mention crafting?
It had the immersion thing where you could feel like you got lost in it, but it was still missing that sense of pure joy that we really wanted. And that's really what we spent the last basically 6 months trying to infuse the thing with, so that now when you get lost in it, you also get lost and just like feel good and have ideally we hope, just have a dopey smile on your face, you know, as you're playing this game.
And so we started laying in story, and we really tightened up all the systems, and we had to cut a bunch of things. But eventually it turned into this, what it is now, which is this immense adventure game with tons and tons of character progression where everything in the world is destructible and you can, you know, turn it into new parts and craft it. Every creature that you encounter in the world is tameable. And we have this crazy story. We've never had much of a focus on story in our games. But this time around, the story is, like, that's the core of the whole thing. And it's this insane story of you're basically an intergalactic truck driver, and you're making a delivery of a few packages, and as you're passing by this particular planet, this malicious alien stops your ship and blows it up because he needs a part out of it. So he doesn't care what happens to you, right? He just needs the part. And so you crash on this planet and you manage to salvage the packages, and of course you're a good employee and you're going to make this delivery no matter what. And so you have to try to figure out how you're going to communicate with the Bureau of Shipping. And then once you do that, how you're going to keep the packages safe and get the packages delivered to them. But in the process of just trying to solve these simple problems, you come across all these aliens that have their own problems, and they're willing to help you get your situation resolved if you help them with some stuff, and then things kind of escalate, and you end up in this sort of epic battle for world domination from this crazy alien guy. And you sort of have to save the world in order to get your packages delivered.
The weird thing for me about games has always just been that they just have better hooks than almost anything else as far as entertainment goes. So even the biggest book you can burn through in a matter of days. Playing games like World of Warcraft or Fallout, where the game world is so big and so rich that you can literally just do that and just keep on doing it. Sometimes for days or for weeks, even months at a time.
I was a swimmer in high school, and eventually I just worked my butt off and I made it to state. And I competed at the state level, and that was a huge moment for me, and I was super proud of it, and it was sort of my dream for 4 years to finally swim at the state meet. There have also been times where I, raiding in World of Warcraft or something, and my guildmates and I were working on a particular boss fight for 6 weeks, and we finally defeated the boss, and it feels the same. The way I see it is anything that's a challenge, it just sort of comes out the same for us as human beings. We just love to be faced with something where we can understand what the rules are and how to beat it, and then we just do it and we love it.
My guess is it's subconscious, but I think a lot of what we're trying to capture is that feeling we had in childhood where we could just walk out the door and go outside and be in effectively another universe, right? You get to kind of pretend like the world is a totally different place. And then you get to go just literally immerse yourself in it. Only there, of course, it's real. And you can then mold it in a way that's interesting. So we would go chop down trees and then try to make forts out of them. And usually they weren't very good and not stable. But we would get to actually go mold the world out there. These times when you get to kind of forget about all the crap. And of course, as kids, we didn't realize how minor that crap was. It seemed like a big deal at the time. Looking back, we're like, I would love it if the crap I was dealing with now was like the crap I was dealing with when I was in middle or high school. Well, maybe I take that back for high school, but
The usual posed senior in high school photo. They're probably going to hate me for that.
Working with Adam and Seth is, it's honestly just really fun because the problem I think most people have in the workplace is that you can never quite trust the other people to either like really do the shit out of their job or to really have your back if everything goes south. And certainly for us, like everything's gone south a good number of times in a good number of fields. And so, when that first game with Seth, when Talfight came out, got great reviews and then just completely tanked. We just made negative money off that thing. It's the sort of thing where we know that Butterscotch will just be an enduring aspect of the stuff we do together because all of us are committed to that thing. All of us are just very supportive of each other's sort of dreams, I guess, and they all happen to happily land together and also with different sort of skill sets, which is nice.
So the question of whether Crashlands would have happened without the cancer, I think the answer is no, it would not have. But it wasn't until cancer came that they did the deep dive. Now, I don't think that they thought it would take as long as it has, but they did commit to doing a longer term deal. And I don't think without this life event, they would have marshaled the same amount of energy to produce something like this. So I do think it is special in that regard. Those guys working together just kind of exponentially adds to their abilities in my sense. But each of them on their own wildly successful, all good, would do great things, would outperform their peers already. But you put them together, and it just starts becoming unfair, in my eyes.
He recovered very quickly because he was so motivated and so fit. Really a faster rebound from that strong treatment than just about anyone I've seen. But the chance of it coming back was still there, and so we moved on to the transplant using a donor stem cells. We basically replace his immune system, and that new immune system can provide a surveillance and control of the lymphoma that works very differently than chemo and gives us our best odds of keeping the lymphoma in remission permanently.
They give you a shot called Neulasta. What Neulasta does, they give it in the back of your arm. So they give this to you around the same time that you would normally really hit a rock bottom as far as cellular counts. Your bones are working so hard, and it primarily hits in your pelvis and then in the low spot of your back. It just feels like someone's crunching the inside of your bones. I was playing video games as this was starting to roll in one day and got into like a 5v5 with my buddy. And there was a brief pause afterward, and then this crunch just drove into my back because my heart rate had gotten jacked up from playing video games.